Good evening to everyone. I am Dr. Omkar Swami on behalf of Emcure Pharmaceuticals Limited. Welcome you all in this session of No Thrombosis live in box. So it's more than 2 years and it's now 48th session that we are joining together to discuss live interventional cases in cath lab. So it gives me a pride, privilege, and honor to welcome our course director, Dr. M.S. Hiremat sir, to this program. Thank you very much, sir, being with us for last more than 2.5 years, where we are discussing very interesting cases in cath lab. We all know sir is a director at cath lab Ruby Hall Clinic, Pune, India. Sir has been a former president of Cardiology Society of India. Sir has been a convener of a National Interventional Council of India of CSI from 2004 to 2006. Sir has a specialized in a complex angioplasty, especially elderly, expert in bifurcation, calcific lesion, rotablation, left main lesion, carotid stenting, aortoiliac interventions, and peripheral angiographies of leg. And he has proctored many interventional cardiologists and given live courses across the globe. Though coronary interventionalist at heart, he is equally adept at peripheral arteries interventions like leg, carotid, and water. He has participated in many groundbreaking trials, and most importantly, he's always been a friend, philosopher, and guide to all of us in Emcure. And sir has proctored this program of no thrombosis, and we always feel the keen interest exhibit by sir in this no thrombosis has made this program really successful. Our moderator for the day is Dr. Srinivas Kumar sir. Sir is a senior consultant and interventional cardiologist at Apollo Hospital, Jubilee Hills, Hyderabad. Sir will be joining shortly. He has certain exigencies. That's why he extended his proxy and may be joining shortly. At the same time, I would like to welcome and introduce our moderator, Dr. D. Prabhakar, sir. Sir has been joining us for No Thrombosis program for more than 6 months now. Sir has been bringing a lot of pearls of wisdom from the cases that has been presented over here. Sir is a consultant and interventional cardiologist associated with Apollo, First Med Hospital, and Ashwin Clinic at Chennai. He has a professional membership to the Cardiology Society of India, Association of Physicians of India, and European Association of Percutaneous Coronary Intervention. And sir was an integral part in last CSI that we witnessed in last December 2022. Sir has been a faculty at cardiology at Madras Medical College, Chennai, and sir has participated international and national conference as an invited faculty many times, many published articles in reputed national and international journals, including some consensus statement which we are working with sir. And sir has done profiling South Indian elderly patients and keeping their lifestyles and conditions of the country as determinant of cardio conditions. So thank you very much, sir, being a part of this program. And very interestingly, today we will be discussing 2 interesting cases, and it gives me a pleasure to welcome Dr. Ankit Dedia. Sir has presented many times in no thrombosis, and we have witnessed interventional cases and a lot of discussion. He is currently working as an interventional cardiologist at Holy Family Hospital, Mumbai, and he will be presenting complex multivessel PCI with bifurcation stenting. Our second speaker for the day is Dr. Abhinav Chabra. Sorry, I beg your pardon, Abhinav Chabra from Medanta Heart Institute, Gurgaon. He will be presenting complex coronary angioplasty case. So this would be our outline of this program. We'll be having 2 back-to-back cases, and after every case, we will be having the discussion. With this small brief, I would like to stop here and maybe hand over this session to our chairperson and moderator for the opening remarks, and then we can immediately start with the case presentation of Dr. Ankit.
Hello, good evening, everybody. As usual, we are excited with this meeting, and we have 2 excellent operators and very good speakers today. So let's start the meeting with Dr. Ankit Dedia. Ankit, over to you.
Ankit, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Hi. I hope my voice is clear.
Yes.
Good.
Very clear.
So I'll just share my presentation. Just a minute. Should I be sharing the screen itself or?
Yeah, that would be great, sir.
Okay. Okay. Just a minute.
You need to just say yes.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
Great, good to go.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. And I'm going to present a not so very complex, but a complex case in its own way. So the presenting history was a 72-year-old gentleman with hypertensive, borderline diabetic, HbA1c around 6.4, 6.6, not on any medicines, had undergone double vessel PTCA to LAD, proximal LAD and circumflex, RCA being a codominant RCA did not have any stenotic lesion, significant stenotic lesion, presented with ACS with an elevation in drops and breathlessness. LVEF was preserved with 50%, normal creat of 0.9, HB of 11.4. The left-sided shoots of the angiogram showed this. Now, there are two stents in the proximal LAD, which was stented 4 years back, both the stents, and also if you notice in the LCX as well, the proximal circumflex, beyond the OM1, early OM1, there's a stent which is patent and doing well. Now, this patient presented with an ACS, breathlessness, LVEF of 50%, presented as ACS, and on angiogram, we thought that this is pre-stenotic lesion or previous pre-stent. So the circumflex lesion was not involving the previous stent, and more or less also the LAD stent was quite patent, and we thought that we should do an imaging for this patient. So first, because the IVUS catheter was not going so smoothly, we pre-dilated both the lesions with 2.75. Of course, this was a Medina 011 to us. So we decided with a 2-stent strategy in this patient. We pre-dilated the patient, both the vessels, LAD and circumflex, with 2.75, 12 millimeters NC balloon. And following which we did an IVUS run. Now, this is the IVUS run of the proximal left main, which shows an area of 14.9, and the actual area should have been around 21.5. If you see the distal LAD or the healthy segment in the mid LAD beyond the stent, beyond the previous stent, was around 8.7, area was around 8.7, which is pretty okay. And the tightest portion in the LAD was showing a 3.9 millimeter square area. So which was significantly tight. This was the tightest portion in the proximal or the just beyond the ostium of the LAD. So we decided to do a DK crush for this patient. First, we pre-dilated already both the lesions. We kept a NC balloon across in the main vessel, and we considered LCX as our side branch. We dilated, we deployed the stent 2.75 by 15 Zion stent, keeping the main vessel balloon undeflated, or rather not inflated in the main vessel. Following which we crushed the first stent, or we did the first crush with a 3 by 12 NC Trek balloon. Following which we rewired through the proximal strut and performed the first kiss with a 3 by 12 millimeter NC Trek balloon in LAD and a 2.75 by 12 millimeter balloon in the circumflex. We serially post-dilate, we did a serial kissing where we inflated the LAD stent first at a higher pressure and a circumflex stent at a lower pressure. And following the same thing, we did high pressure in the LCX versus the low pressure in the LAD. After which we did the main vessel stenting, that was left main to LAD. We took a 3.5 by 18 millimeter Zion stent. We dilated up to 11 atmospheres. Following which we did the first pot, that is we took a 4 by 8 millimeter balloon in the proximal left main and did the rewiring. After the rewiring, we did a 3 by 12 NC track post dilatation in the circumflex. And we performed the second kiss of the DK crush. The second kissing was done with both the same balloons, 3.3 by 12 in LAD and 2.75 by 12 in circumflex. Following the second kiss, we performed a IVUS run, and which clearly showed the final results in LAD was around 7.6 millimeter square as compared to 3.2 millimeter square, which was initially there. We could see a well expanded, well apposed stent in the LAD. I missed to put the left main IVUS run, which was showing almost an area of 16.4 millimeter square. I could not put that run in this presentation. I'm extremely sorry. And this was the final result, where we had a good result of left main to LAD with a DK crush of LCX stent, both Zion stents. This was around 4 years back, and this patient is doing very well now. Recently came to us in our clinic, and LVEF is preserved, but unfortunately now he's diabetic and doing well. Now he's a proper diabetic with an A1C of around 7.4. That was it. Just to give a brief on what we did, we had a good case review, and selection is critical for any left main bifurcation stenting. Choice of access and guide catheter should be based on anatomy and planned intervention. Lesion preparation, vessel modification is of utmost importance and may be needed as for a successful procedure. We would prefer a single stent strategy, but because wherever possible, because this patient was clearly 011, we preferred this as a bifurcation 2-stent strategy. Always wire both vessels, of course, and the main vessel stent should be sized according to the distal diameter of the main vessel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ankit. That was an exciting case. The strategy used was culottes. And I think whenever you're dealing with an ISR, culottes is probably a strategy which will give you a best metal coverage of the lesions. So I think the choice of culotte was absolutely perfect. And however, why you did not use cutting balloon? I think this kind of ISR would probably need either rota or cutting balloon. And I would thought, since many would want to do a rota kind of case, I mean, there is no harm doing rota also, but I thought cutting was simpler and probably safer because patient was unstable in the case.
Yeah.
I think basically, I think he has done a good job. I think he felt that with the pre-dilatation, the lesion gave way and didn't go for a cutting. Did you have a cutting balloon on the shelf?
Yeah, sir. Yes, we had it, but then I didn't want to overdo. Probably I was pretty happy with the 2.75 dilatation of the pre-dilatation. With that, the residual stenosis was not. Probably I was not very keen on doing the cutting balloon because I thought that the result of the pre-dilatation was pretty decent, so I didn't opt for it. But yes, as sir rightly said, that maybe a cutting balloon would have given a better vessel preparation. Yes.
What kind of balloon pressures you used, or what would you advocate?
Sir, for pre-dilatation, I went up with 2.75 12 NC track balloon. We went up to 14 atmosphere in circumflex, and in LED also we went up to 14 to 16 atmospheres. So with that, we got a decent.
And when you did a kissing, second kiss, after two stents were placed in as culottes, what kind of pressures did you use?
So, sir, we initially we serially we went up with a LED stent, LED post dilatation. We went for the LED balloon. We went up to 6 first. Then we went at the same time for the circumflex. We went up to 6. Then gradually pushed LED balloon to 10. So we had LED pressures of 10 with a 6 of circumflex pressures. And then we deflated both the balloons, and we did the same with circumflex at 10 and LED at 6.
You were 1-to-1 with the vessel diameter, the balloon diameter, and the vessel diameter was 1-to-1, 275 in circumflex and 30 in LED, correct?
No, sir. My LED stent was 3.5.
And the balloon also was 3.5. NC balloon was also 3.5.
No, sir. I did not, because then I kept LED balloon at 3 and an LCX balloon of 2.75 for the kissing. But I used a 4.8 balloon for post dilatation for the pot, and we also used a 3.5 balloon in the proximal LED, which was not involved in the bifurcation.
No, your 3 and 2.75 was the first kissing.
Kiss.
And the second kiss was?
Second kiss was 3.5 and 2.75.
So I think that answers your question, sir. So he used a 3 initially and a 3.5 for the final kiss.
Yeah. Because without
the pressures, I would probably feel if you're taking a 3.0 to LED, you could have gone to even 25 and 30. I mean, whenever you have two balloons, the feeling is go up to 6 on both, and then one of them you jack it up to maybe 25 or 30. I think most of the stent would take that kind of pressure very well, and this is perhaps one sure way of making guaranteed that the stent expansion is full. And then reverse, the balloon which had gone to 30 probably comes back to 6, and the other one goes to 25 or 30. And this is how, and finally, you should end up with equal pressures in both the balloons. I think culottes is a very good technique, but I think we must take the steps absolutely correctly. And I would always like to end up with equal pressures on both the balloons. Dr. Prabhakar, you want to add anything here about the balloon pressures?
The pressures, I think he had actually been a little conservative on the whole thing, because he didn't go more than 10. He was doing 6 and 10. That's 6 all.
6 and 10, yes.
I think Ankit was more scared about getting into problem than
we had a perf case just
that's exactly
3 weeks before this case. Of course, it has got nothing to do with this case. So that was playing probably in our minds. So in a similar situation, I had a LED perf in a proximal LED with a 3.5 kind of a vessel. I landed up putting a covered stent of 2.75, and then, so it was.
These are episodes we should forget.
Okay.
And sort of start afresh. I mean, so many times this kind of thing, perforation happens to your first case, and then you have a list of another 4 cases.
Correct.
So just ignore the perforation and treat the next case as if you are afresh.
And the important point that sir was telling was finally finish with equal pressures on both. And I think you can go up, because when you're 6 on one side, you can easily go up to the higher pressures with the other one. And then you alternate first and then moderate it and finish it with the same pressures on either side. Otherwise, you're pushing the plaque to one side or the other. You're not going to end up with a good result finally. So I think that is something that you have to do. And going to higher pressures here is not, because you're using a non-compliant balloon.
NC balloons, yeah.
Are you using 10 or you're going for 18, or most of these balloons take 20 or 22. So you can easily
25 and 30. Actually, the NC balloons, most of them would take a pressure of 25 to 30. In fact, whenever we are taking an NC balloon, we always go beyond 25. And since we do not want to go simultaneously to pressures beyond 25 on both the balloons, keep one at a lower pressure, go high on the other one, and then reverse. I think
what is the lower pressure that you use, sir?
Lower pressure is about 10.
The other one is about 20, 25.
It's generally 25 and 30, actually.
Wow.
I think most of the balloons, they take it well, the high pressures.
Okay.
So finally, the LED cross-sectional area of the stent was 7+, right?
Yes, sir.
And the
7.8.
left main was 16+.
16.4, yeah.
Yeah, so I think both are very well achieved, because you jump from 3.8 on LED to 7+,
7.8, yeah.
which is a big jump on a stent. The stents were about 4-year-old, or?
Sorry, sir. Yeah, we put a Zion's Expedition.
No.
The previous stents were
How
4 years.
old were the stents?
Previous stents were 4 years old, yeah.
So when it is gone beyond 1 year, and then you are diagnosing a narrowing in the stents, I think, I mean, do you consider it as an ISR or it's a neoatherosclerosis?
Sir, this would be labeled as new atherosclerosis only.
So all the more reason why you should be using a cutting balloon.
Correct. But sir, somehow we found that the lesion was slightly before the stent. It was not involving the previous stents. So initially, we also on the routine angiography, we thought that it is peristent lesion. But on the IVUS, it was clear that beyond the stent struts, the lesion was more tighter, and there was no lesion across the stent area. So
but
that's
beyond
why
means proximal to the stent.
Proximal, yeah.
Okay.
Pre-stent.
I think that is another reason why your culotte was a perfect strategy. Dr. Prabhakar, would you choose any other strategy for this kind of lesion?
So it's actually easier, because what he has done, he has been very clear with what he has been doing, and it's a little culotte. What he says is a little mixed, because what he has done is how much of the stent have you placed inside the left main from the circumflex?
Sir, only two and a half struts. So
and you recrossed only into the circumflex, correct?
Correct.
It's a
so
little.
It is more of a.
We call it as a culotte, sir. It is more likely to be
DK crush.
DK crush than a culotte, because it's not projected into the left main at all.
No, it was hardly 2 millimeters.
More of a DK crush than the culotte.
Yeah.
No, let's not mix these two. I mean, DK is totally different. I mean, in DK, you don't have a opened up stent in the main branch. In culottes, we have a fully open stent in the main branch, that is left main. So, Dr. Ankit, I would feel that you had a fully open stent in the left main, and so it has to be called culotte. There is no DK crush. You can call it mini culotte if you want, but this is culottes, definitely culottes. Okay, any other questions in the chat box?
Anything in the chat box, Onkar? You're muted,
Not it, sir.
Not yet.
But I think the pearls of wisdom that Dr. Hiramat was saying was very, 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 very clear. I think your pressures going up, you can go to higher pressures in these and alternate the pressures and then equate it so that you have a similar pressure in both. I think the kissing technique has to be a little perfect. And the pot twice, the initial pot and the final pot, both are very important. And I think The final IVUS run that you have done has clearly shown good results. I think finally, I think it's very, very good results. Possible only question that that was raised was maybe a cutting balloon could have been a little easier and better, because I have seen Dr. Hiramat sir present his cases in no thrombosis, and his threshold for using a cutting balloon is very low, but the results are very good.
Correct.
So I think we should learn from that also.
Yes.
Sir, any comment on that, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I love the cutting balloon because it clearly cracks, and then you do an IVUS following cutting. You can see all those cracks and you feel nice that your stent, which will come in soon after, is going to expand fully. In this kind of ISR, the material that is growing inside the stent is a different kind of material. But since you want to call it this as a neoatherosclerosis, I think your technique is also very acceptable. But if it were happening in 3 months and 6 months, I think we must learn to call this an ISR, in which case I think cutting balloon was probably a necessity.
Okay.
Dr. Omkar,
Yeah,
thank you, Dr. Ankit. Which hospital was this case done, Dr. Ankit?
So we are done at Holy Family.
Oh,
Mumbai.
lovely.
So
Okay,
let us
Dr.
move-
Omkar, can we go to the next
Yes,
case?
yes, sir. We can move to the next case, and I request Dr. Abhinav. Yeah. Dr. Abhinav, you are on mute.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Hiramat sir. Good evening, Prabhakar sir. And thanks for inviting me to such a good platform to share the recent work we are doing in Vedanta. So I am Dr. Abhinav. I have done my DM from Aurangabad, Maharashtra. And we were like every day we hear things about Dr. Hiramat. Dr. Suhas Hardas was a visiting cardiologist at that time when I was having my residency in 2020. So I completed my DM in 2020 and started my career in Vedanta. So I recently, 6 months back, promoted as a consultant in Vedanta. So I will be sharing my. Are you able to see the slide?
No,
Not yet.
Yes, it's loading.
Good.
So I will be starting with the case. It is just a very short. It will be a short discussion. So there was a 73-year-old female presented, had a history of CAD, had a stent in LED 2 years back, and now presented with ACS. So angiography was done, which showed a discrete lesion in RCA, but the RCA was heavily calcified, and the lesion which was there in RCA, it was more or less a calcium chunk which was there in the in between in the middle part of the RCA. So we crossed the lesion with the BMW wire, which was easily crossable, and then we tried everything and nothing was crossing across that lesion. Like even the Nick Nano balloon 0.85, it was not crossing. We used everything like guide support and the recent all the things which are there in the lab, but nothing was crossed. So we started with the laser, and we gave almost 4 passes of the laser at a rate of 60 and the fluence of 40 for 7 to 8 passes, then 80 for another 4 passes, and the total time of laser was around 5.8 minutes. So we were able to negotiate the lesion, and then we pre-dilated the lesion with a 2.5 open NC, but again there was dope boning at the same point, and then we crossed the IVUS with the Guidezilla support, and the IVUS was like this. Even with the cutting balloon and the open NC, the lesion was not, the calcium was not, we were not able to cut that calcium. It was just making everything a dog boning. So the next step was like whether to go for IVL as the patient was affording. So we tried the IVL with the Guidezilla support, and we were able to dilate the lesion and finally cross the lesion and put the disc across that lesion. So this was the final result. Although it is just a very short case, but the thing was that we were not able to negotiate a single 0.85 Nic nano and 1 OPN. So these were the things which complicated this process and made it complex. So we used ELCA balloon and imaging technique, imaging in this case, and finally got this result.
Dr. Abhinav, when you say none of these balloons crossed,
Yes, sir.
Before that, you used any imaging to see whether the calcium was inside or outside?
So calcium was inside. We tried to negotiate the IVUS, but IVUS was going to a certain point, and we were not able to see across it. So it was a like calcium chunk along with a ring of calcium inside. A 360
Yeah, I think if I mean IVUS probe will probably reach the tightest part of the lesion.
Yes.
It will clearly show whether the calcium is inside or in the adventitia. Because, I mean, this case, of course, even from the way your course has taken place, it is obviously calcium making things difficult. And that's why, but I think it's generally a good idea to check if, I mean, what we see on fluoroscopy is a calcified vessel. But I think one should make a point to see if the calcium is inside or outside. I think if calcium is inside, all these strategies are very important. The second issue is the IVL balloon. I think the balloon profile is not the best. So I'm very surprised when you say that your 0.80 balloon did not cross.
No, sir.
IVL balloon crossed so many times. IVL doesn't cross, so we take a 1.0 or 1.5 balloon, make a space, and then get an IVL in.
Yes,
so
sir.
what is your experience or comment on this?
Sir, we started with the BMW wire. We crossed the lesion, but after we were not able to negotiate the balloon. So we went to start with the ELCA, we did the laser and then started to dilate it. Then we were able to negotiate the balloons later, but it was complete dog burning. So even OPN was not making us to deploy the stent. We were not able to deploy the to break that 360-degree calcium inside. So that's why we use that IVL balloon.
Your initial strategy when you did the IVUS, do you have the IVUS runs? So I think if you look at the IVS, if you think that it was so tight and nothing would cross, rota initially, simple. You have done
yes,
laser.
We can consider rota in such a case. Yes,
rota would probably have straight away gone inside and created a passage, and then you can go in. But did you get the OPN inside?
Yes, we were able to negotiate OPN after the laser.
Okay, after the laser, but it still wouldn't open adequately.
Yes,
is that what you meant?
Yes.
And the IVUS run after that still showed a circumferential calcium.
Circumferential
and you had to go for that OPN. So probably when you see such a heavy circumferential calcium, possibly the best thing is go ahead with an IVL and break the calcium and then go ahead with that. OPN itself really does not. And initially when you tried the balloons that you were doing, the balloons were not crossing. Did you have a good guide support? Your guide looked very good in position. If you have a good guide support, you don't probably more than guys. Back would remember that it made two deploying these balloons. Probably your initial balloon would have gone inside much easier.
Yeah, but I would also feel that if balloon is not going on its own, we downsize, and even the downsized balloon is not crossing. you can use support from behind. Like I would probably bring in a guidezilla or a guideliner,
Yes.
reach the lesion, and then take the smallest balloon.
Yes,
to
sir.
go
We
across.
tried that Guidezilla support also, and we use our nowadays that Nipro Guide support is very it is doing wonder in our cases. So it just cross we reached up to that point, but we were not able to negotiate any balloon out of that. So
Which
that's
guide-
why,
Which guide did you say just now?
sir, a Nipro,
Uh-huh.
Nipro.
What is the specialty of
So
Nipro?
specialty, sir, it is a very you can say a very like tactile in touch, and it's just
Very-
Guidezilla is more or less like a guide only. It is just a catheter which is very soft, sir. It easily reaches up to a distal point. We have two type of, one is EL, one is SL. So for a calcium which is like for a lesion which is very distal, so we use EL, and which for proximal ones we are using SL.
Now, it's the same that what I had told. Actually, it's guide plus 2. It's
Yes,
also,
guide plus 2. Yes, sir. Yes.
and that's what I
Nipro
was
guide.
also mentioning. The guide plus 2 goes inside, and actually guide plus 2 can be pushed inside without the balloon getting milking it.
Yes.
So that's the advantage of guide plus 2. You don't need a balloon support for that, and it's a good, very good catheter.
Yes, sir. Yes.
In fact, I had presented the case where Guidezilla wouldn't go in, and the Guide Plus actually went inside and helped me do a case in the right coronary artery. Well, something similar, but I think you had a little more difficulty with that. And did you get all your other catheters through the Guide Plus 2?
Sorry, sir. Please come again.
Did you use the Guide Plus 2 subsequently to get the balloons inside also after the laser?
Yes, yes, yes. Because the proximal to the mid there was a calcium tram track calcium only, so we took the support of guide plus 2 only to cross that IVL balloon itself.
So can we indirectly say that the laser was successful and that's why the subsequent balloon could cross easily?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So after that, sir, sorry to interrupt you. After that, we did almost 3 to 4 cases in which we were not able to negotiate that lesion, like a chunk of calcium. So laser we were able to do that pre-dilatation after crossing the laser, after doing the laser. So laser did well in such cases to make a channel, to make a path for the even like 1O balloon. So it definitely helps.
I think laser is also very good for ISR.
Yes, sir.
When you're dealing with an ISR, I think laser works very well. So moment wire crosses, if you get the laser, it would make enough space for you to bring in your subsequent stuff.
Yes, sir.
But I think good case where you had, I think good thing you had all the armamentaria in your lab to go ahead and do everything. That's nice. Because failing which, I think the other alternative would have been to the conventional way would have been to go ahead with the rota and then use a burr, use a 1.25 or 1.5, and then go ahead and then get all your stuff inside. I think that would have been the classical way of doing it. But I think laser gives you another option. And I think you have used the option pretty well. And subsequently, the OPN not dilating is a little surprising, but I don't know the protocol. But I think what I think you should do is if you are having so much of circumferential calcium, straight away go ahead and use an IVL. I think that would be break the calcium and then go ahead and get it sorted out.
Dr. Prabhakar, to make all these decisions, I think imaging right at the beginning is very important.
Very important.
So even if your probe doesn't cross the lesion, come up to the lesions, see the wall at the site of the tightest occlusion, and that would help you decide what kind of cutting technology you're going to use.
Suppose you don't have an IVL in this case, sir. Suppose you have crossed and no balloon crosses. What would be your strategy, sir?
In olden days, we used to put a 3-5 wire on the side, 104 wire on the side, and we believed the NC balloon would use the wire as a cutting balloon. And the cutting balloon is quite bulky; it can't cross easily, and that's why unless you do some dilatation, getting a cutting balloon is quite tough. So I would probably feel we used to do these kind of things. Keep a wire on the side, 014, and then use the NC balloon. You have any tricks, Prabhakar?
No, sir. What I felt was if it's not going in, probably straight away exchange. If you're not sure about crossing it, go ahead and get a rota. Rota is more available than the laser in most of the centers. So I think probably I should have done was that. But I think the trick that you said, use a buddy wire and try to get something inside. Get a second wire inside, a little more stiff, or a micro catheter and get a more stiff catheter. BMW may not provide you much support. So probably get one of those stiffer wires and maybe you can track a balloon down on that much more easily. He's tried a guide mate too, which is good, but probably with a more stiffer wire, I think a balloon might have crossed and you could have done an imaging straight away. But the very good learning point that you gave us was that track the IVS to as far as it goes, and then you have an idea of what happens inside, which I never thought about that. I've never done that. So I think that's something that's very important to learn.
Yes.
Dr. Prabhakar, can you tell us a little bit more about this Guide Plus 2?
Sir, actually, it's a very simple catheter, sir. Actually, you don't have to use it like the Guidezilla. The Guidezilla that we use, you most of the time you have to milk it with a balloon and inflate it and keep pushing it as you deflate it. The Guide Plus 2, you don't have to use a balloon at all. It just goes inside as far as it goes. You can use the milking, but you don't need the milking at all in that. And how do you use it, Abhinav, in your case?
So we just pushed it, sir.
Yeah,
We
it's
just pushed
much
it.
softer in the tip, sir. The tip is much softer.
Yes.
The tip is much softer and it goes inside very easily. It doesn't produce any dissection or any specific problem there. It definitely glides in through.
We have not used it. Who makes this?
I think now, which company now? I think it's called Guide Plus 2 is it's Nipro.
Sir, it's Nipro only.
Nipro only. Nipro is the company, and it is there. I'll ask those guys.
All right. Thank you.
It's available on the shelf in the hospitals where I go. So it's kind of easy.
And we can reuse it also, sir. Like we are using it again 2 to 3 times, sir.
That's good, sir. 2 to 3 times it works pretty well, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Abhinav.
Thank you, sir.
That was a very exciting case, though presented briefly. I'm sure all of us would have struggled to do this kind of case on that background. It was a brilliant result and very effective steps that you measured. What is the laser penetration in your cath lab at the moment? Like what percentage of cases need laser?
Sir, nowadays, like I am working with Dr. Praveen Chandra in his team. So almost like every second day we are using laser in CTOs, in graft plasties, in like instant. Yes, definitely. Maximum in instant restenosis, as you earlier told us. And secondly, to creating a path, sir, in which we are not able to negotiate even smaller balloons. So we are using laser in those patients, sir.
So what are the precautions that you need to take while advancing your laser? I guess you need to go very slow.
Yes, sir, very slow. And sir, like if you have to just make a path, then rate should be increased. And if you have to create like the calcium, if the plaque burden is there, like instant restenosis, so we have to increase the fluence in such cases, sir. Rate and fluencer and multiple runs we can take, sir. Like maximum we did laser in a case with 9 minutes, maximum 9 minutes we did. And like in between we have to just flush the catheter and flush the artery. So because laser creates some
heat.
Energy, yes, and we have to just flush it.
I think if you don't flush, it generates too much heat.
Yes,
and that can have its own problem.
Yes, sir. Like it creates some kind of heat bubble, they say.
And the rotor can get stuck. I mean, the laser can get stuck there.
No, sir. Just some dissections or some. We haven't like encountered any complication like this, but they are saying some like artery damage to intima or something. And if there are air like bubbling, heat bubbles or air bubbles, whichever thing they are telling us, like then that laser won't be that effective.
If there is air bubbles, correct.
Yes, if we laser it and we are doing laser and we are not flushing the catheter and the artery, we are not flushing the artery, then it creates some heat bubble or something, and that laser is not effective in such cases. So we have to flush up after every run.
Yeah, small precautions, small care, but makes laser very effective.
Yes.
Dr. Prabhakar, you want to add anything?
Nothing, sir. I think I haven't used a laser. We have it in Apollo, but I still haven't had the right one to start using a laser. Maybe I'm still very old-fashioned and conservative.
No, I'm sure after today you will start using laser tomorrow.
Abhinav has given me more confidence.
Thank you.
I think we have had good pearls of wisdom. Both cases had good learning points, and two different cases with two different modalities of treatment. I think good spacing out and good discussions today we landed up with, and how to get in even if you don't have laser utilization, and good case presentation. Dr. Abhinav also, Dr. Abhijit. I think both of you, big thanks to both of you, and a lot of pearls of wisdom as usual from Dr. Hiramat sir. I think thank you so much, sir. Anything from Hiramat sir you want to add up, sir?
I think today's both cases had sort of different flavor. First was a clear-cut ISR, and we discussed how we can address an ISR case. I would very positively feel that cutting balloon, which Dr. Prabhakar used, no, he did not use rather, was probably a necessity in that case. I would have definitely used balloon. But as we discussed, it was a 4-year-old lesion. I mean, stent was 4-year-old. So it was probably more like neoatherosclerosis and not so much of ISR. If that is true, a conventional balloon stent technique would probably work in this case. This was about first case by Dr. Ankit Dedia. And the second one by Dr. Abhinav highlighted the use of laser. I think laser has this speciality where nothing else is crossing. I think you can safely use laser. You have to be very, very slow when you use laser. Abhinav, correct me if I'm wrong. I've just seen laser being used and never had an opportunity to.
So, like in rough hands, if we are fast, like we have to just slow in to just break the lesion, but there is no such complication if you use it faster. But like to be gets a, like you can say, a good result, so we have to be slow. But we can just go like a rota run also, but it won't be so effective in such cases, but it won't create any problem in patient.
The heat it generates is quite a bit, and that flush that you maintain after each.
Mainly the guy who was the Philips guy told us like just we have to flush the catheter so that laser helps, laser effectiveness increases. It won't damage the artery, rather the heat bubble will not damage the artery, but the laser effectiveness reduces.
All right. Omkar, any other case or any other discussion issue?
No, sir. We have planned 2 cases, sir. I think we've started on time today, 8 o'clock. It's 8:52. So almost an hour we have discussing. So there's no further case we are anticipating, sir, today.
But thank you for picking up new speakers, and everybody is coming out with more and more exciting cases. This forum is continuously growing. How many attendees you think we had today?
I am not very sure, sir, but I will just
Yeah,
check.
376, sir.
Okay. That's nice, Onkar. I think Emcure has done a tremendous job in getting so many interventional cardiologists together. So we will soon announce the next date.
Yes, it would be on
And,
23rd March, sir. 23rd March, we will be joining together.
You must look up the Chennai meeting, India Live. I think it's 17th to 20th.
Okay, sir. Okay.
16 to 19, sir.
16 to 19.
16 to 19, sir.
All right. So thank you, everybody. I think we had great discussion. So a special thanks to Dr. Ankit and Dr. Abhinav.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, Dr. Prabhakar, your inputs were really, really exciting. So big thank you to Emcure and Dr. Onkar Swami for bringing so many of us together. An exciting platform. I'm sure all of us learn out of these meetings, and as we go and sleep tonight, many of us will start thinking about acquiring laser too. I think laser, as I understand, is only in about 5 cath labs. But I guess laser cannot be moved from one place to other.
Yeah, it's a huge machine.
It's a big machine, yeah. So I think one has to buy a laser, but I will probably try and convince our management to buy a laser tomorrow. Okay, what about you? You already have it.
Apollo's got it, sir. Apollo's already got one.
Already, yeah.
So if you allow me, sir, I can just go through some slides which we just collected as a laser case, laser cases. If 5 to 10 minutes short.
Yeah, make it brief. We are about 5 minutes away from the end, but we are all excited about lasers. So let's see your slides.
Yeah. So it was a instant occlusion. So as sir has already discussed, like it helps in very much in this instant restenosis. So after laser, this was the result. So second case was double vessel disease with patent stent and LCX as a osteoproximal 90%. So LCX was treated with the laser. So it was difficult to cross that LCX branch, but we negotiated the wire and did laser and got this result. With cutting
LCX lesions are very notorious for significant percentage of ISR. And once ISR happens at the LCX ostium, it's very, very difficult. So many times I tell the patients to sort of ignore the angina and live with it and so on. So I'm sure this is probably going to be a very strong indication.
Yes, sir. So we, in this case, we did laser, and after that cutting balloon and deb only. We didn't put the stent in this case, sir.
Oh, just laser and cutting balloon.
Yes, sir.
How often is it that you do a laser and don't put a stent? Not very often, I guess.
Sir, in osteal lesions, like sir, in such cases,
You don't
in
put
branches,
stent.
yes.
The results are good, or you have?
Yeah, results are good, sir.
And you do an imaging in all these cases?
Yes, sir. So again, this was uncrossable lesion. In this, we did laser and then put the stent. Osteoproximal lesion, stent restenosis again. So after laser, we just did laser and depth to the LED. We didn't put the stent. So this was the final result, sir.
I think this also would be a very exciting way to treat ISR. Do a laser and then release drugs through a DEB. And I'm sure we would expect very good result. Of course, you need to do imaging to make sure that the stent has been previously well expanded and reason out why the ISR has taken place.
So almost 95% cases we are doing cutting balloon, either with the help of laser or just get a good area. And after imaging, we just do we are just leaving it on DEB only, sir. In almost 95% cases.
Yeah, I think I would feel DEB was sort of, I mean, I felt at one time it was probably losing its importance. I'm not trying to say it was on its way out, but I think with laser, DEB will probably see a rebirth.
So this was the graft in which we did the laser and then put the stent.
So this was a vein graft?
Yes, sir.
What happens when the laser passes through the debris in a case like this? I mean, does it go distally? I mean,
No, sir.
Generally,
No.
we worry about balloon.
Yes, distal embolization. But sir, we haven't seen any such case with slow flow or no flow. So it is just giving us the way and we are getting out of it.
But is it so? You didn't cross the lesion? Why did you use a laser in that case?
Sir, just we crossed the wire and did the proximal lasering, sir.
Filter,
Okay.
dilate, stent, simpler, probably.
Yes, sir. But in grafts, there are some studies in which it is showing like laser is helpful, and we are just burning the plaque, and you can just. But although the newer studies, the recent guidelines are not very keen to put a stent in the grafts. So, but we are trying this laser in such cases, so it is giving us a good result.
And this was not stented. That's just a laser.
No. It was stented, sir.
It was stented, correct. Okay.
Yes.
So are there any areas where you would suggest we use a laser and don't put a stent?
Sorry, sir.
Use laser and don't put stents. I guess ISR is one such indication where
Yes,
you do a laser and maybe just a DEP.
yes. Sir. And in heavily calcified vessels like or a tortuous vessel, in which we are not able to cross the stents or guide supports. So even after using guide support, so we can also leave these arteries on DEB also if there are no such dissections.
That I don't think has long-term data as yet with these cases, but I think it's clear that these instant restenosis cases are pretty exciting. Like Dr. Hiramat says, I think all those instant restenosis which I manage with the cutting balloon and just this thing, even without imaging, they seem to be doing well. Just a DEB, the good DEB of deploy it, and then they seem to be doing pretty well.
Without imaging?
This is quite some time back. So this fellow keeps coming back to me every 3 months because he's scared that he might get into a problem. This guy is about 6 years ago, and he's still doing well. At that time, I didn't have imaging in the lab where I did it.
As a principal, you must find out the reason for
I agree with you, sir.
ISR.
I agree with you.
The reason definitely means that you have to image from inside, So I would probably feel that every ISR must be
On the
made.
image. No, I agree with you that totally, sir. Now, but this guy came about 7 years ago, and he said this, that, and all kinds of budgets. I said, okay, we'll do a cutting balloon. At that time, I think that was the time when the drugs when the price control started coming in for the drugs, for the drug-eluting stents, and I had to use a cutting balloon, which was more expensive than a stent.
Yes.
And cutting balloon, and then use a drug-eluting balloon, which is also more expensive. So actually, he ended up paying more, and actually, he's doing pretty well.
So he's with cutting balloon and a DEB.
And at DEB, he's doing absolutely fine, sir.
I think this would be a reasonable indication for elderly and super elderly too, that they don't have to take DAP for a long time, just after some days only clopidogrel is enough.
Yes, sir. I think that part has now become very, very clear now. I think everybody says stop the DAPT by 6 months now. And the recent study that was published came up and said clopidogrel alone is superior to aspirin. Very clearly, only clopidogrel. No more of this aspirin alone business. And aspirin is kind of losing its sheen completely. And I think after some time, we'll be talking only about the other drugs. But I think we need
all
some
these studies. No, all these studies, especially the Onyx study, aspirin stopped after 1 month and didn't show any problem just with clopidogrel or whatever you choose as the second drug.
Now, this study that I'm quoting, I often I can't remember the name, but this clearly showed that long-term aspirin versus clopidogrel, it showed that clopidogrel, the event rates were less and the bleeds were also less compared to aspirin.
Bleeds were less?
Come again, sir?
Bleeds also were less?
Both were less with clopidogrel alone, sir. I'll try to get the reference and probably give it to you in the next this thing. I have it somewhere because it within the last about couple of months this was published, and clearly showing that it is there as probably future is going to be only the P2Y12 inhibitors. There's not going to be any aspirin.
I mean, aspirin failed to prevent primary events. I think I have no tremendous faith in aspirin.
No, primary prevention, it's completely out, sir. Especially after 60, clearly no say. 40 to 60, they say it should be a combined decision depending on the risk of the particular case. But even there, I think nobody's going to use aspirin. And even patients who are already on aspirin or any kind of antiplatelet, what is now said is give them a good dose of statin and don't start using aspirin. And you can withdraw the aspirin if the lesion is less than 50%. You don't need aspirin for those patients. So I think
Twilight study also highlighted the same things. Twilight complex.
It was more of
ticagrelor, where 3 months aspirin was given only.
All right, Dr. Onkar, we are ready to close down for today.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so maybe final word from you, and then we stop.
So thank you all. Thank you very much, sir, being a part of this program. It is our 48th, sir. So almost we are working for last 2 years. Thank you, Dr. Prabhakar, sir, being with us for last 6 months. Thank you, Dr. Ankit, sir. He has presented second times, not first time, if I'm not wrong, second or third time. Third time, yes, third time. That's what Dr. Ankit has pointed out. And thank you, Dr. Abhinav. Welcome to this forum. We look forward next time also, maybe in some time, you may gather some interesting case and be reserved for this forum. Thank you very much. I thank all the
sir, this trial, one second, the trial is called host exam trial, sir.
Sorry, can you say?
Trial about clopidogrel, I said, is called host exam trial.
Host?
Host, H-O-S-T, host exam trial.
Where they compared
clopidogrel and aspirin, sir.
No, but what kind of subset? Secondary prevention?
It is secondary long-term monotherapy with aspirin versus clopidogrel. The primary endpoint was 12.8% versus 16.9%. I'll probably send you a copy of that, sir. I think it does.
Maybe next next meeting.
And I'll just give a few brief about a few slides
Keep
about
a few
it.
minutes for you
Sure, sir.
for highlighting this particular
Posting.
study.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. At the same time, I thanks all the delegate across the country watching this program. So we'll stop here. We'll gather next month on 23rd with 2 or 3 more interesting cases and a lot of discussion. Till then, thank you. Good night and have a nice time ahead. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.